Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. It's the France 24 debate, and we're 3 days from the first round of the French presidential election. We're talking about it with Paris Municipal Councillor Anne Le Breton, who supports centrist candidate Emmanuel Macron, Michael Salah, who heads the National Front's committee in the Northwest Paris suburban département of, it's like a district, of called the Val d'Oise, Municipal Councillor Camille Bédin in the city of Nanterre, west of Paris, of the Les Républicains Party, and Raquel Garrido, a spokesperson for Jean-Luc Mélenchon's Unbowed France movement, La France Insoumise. Final days of the race, the candidates directing their message, we talked about a little bit in part one, towards their core voters. Here's the far right's Marine Le Pen at a rally that was on Wednesday evening in Marseille.
For us, the only freedom we have left is to watch intruders from all over the world come and settle here. They want to turn France into a gigantic squat. The French are the ones who own France, and they alone must be the ones to decide who can settle in France.
Now, at the other end of France, in the Brittany coast city of Nantes, centrist Emmanuel Macron, during his speech, waved the European flag at his rally. And that's something perhaps French politicians didn't do much before the Brexit vote. Again, it's this question of the optimistic versus the pessimistic vision of France. Raquel Garrido, this issue of borders, the issue of terror, we've had plots uncovered this week, potentially, allegedly, targeting the candidates. How much of it is going to be a factor for those undecided voters we were talking about at the outset?
Not much, I think. It hasn't been really an issue. Had the Manuel Valls and the socialist government been in this campaign, I think they would have focused more on that issue. But they're not. They were ejected in the earlier stages of the campaign. And I think that the way French people are handling terror is something much more intimate and intelligent than what the Front National thinks. We've all been hurt by what happened at Hypercacher, Charlie Hebdo, Bataclan. And, you know, we're trying to deal with it in a day-to-day basis. We go back to work and we try to uphold our way of life. And what we need isn't more violence, isn't more inter-community tension, isn't a new war among French between whether you're Muslim or not Muslim or sons of immigrants. And the problem with Marine Le Pen, I think, is that it's more anguish, it's more fight, and what we're doing with Jean-Luc Mélenchon, on the contrary, is to bring peace and a pacific means of resolving the issues that are in France among the French people. Because let us remind us that the terror attacks were from Frenchmen to other Frenchmen. That's a problem. So we need to, to collide as a people. And that's what the Constituent Assembly is about, is to look at each other and say, do we want to be a nation together? Do we want to be a people together? Do we want to build this new and core liberties and rights together? The answer is yes. But if we answer yes to that, that's an act of love. It's an act of empathy. It's a patriotic act. It's not about making a list of people you hate, like does the Front National, and she, up until the end, she's campaigning on the people we don't like. But that's just... It's too much to take on board to make lists of people you hate. It's much. I think what's urgent is to bring the French people now together and do this new constitution, because that's just what history is asking us to do right now.
When it comes to the issues of closed borders, when it comes to the issue of religion, François Fillon sometimes sounds a bit like Marine Le Pen on these issues.
And do not mix everything subjects, because it has nothing to do. I mean, there is a Republican subject, how you can build a nation and make a people and make a people unified and united. But it's another subject to talk about terrorism and to talk about borders and Islam and be serious. I mean, we have to be serious about that. François Fillon just says one thing about terrorism, is that we have to fight it as a war, and because it is a war against terrorism in the world, in France, obviously, and abroad. And so there are many ways of fighting it. I want to talk about one is to rebuild the European Union, because we have to fight that together. And it's not like Marine Le Pen or Jean-Luc Mélenchon says in dividing in Europe and
no, we're calling
quitting.
For a renegotiation of the treaties.
I mean,
it's
it
not
has
the same thing. It's pretty. It's
we
diplomacy.
have to be.
Diplomacy is peace.
And
Understand that. Understand that. If you don't have diplomacy, what other means of international relations do you have?
But
diplomacy is peace. It's what the United Nations stand for. That's
and you
what,
have to do it with Germany and in a strong union, in very strong union. And it's the opposite of what Mélenchon and Le Pen both
what
together
Sarkozy and your
are
party
saying.
have done to the European Union in the past 10 years is that you've put the people against one each other on the economic issues with lower worker wages in the eastern countries, and then people are hating each other because of your policy. So maybe you can let us a chance to make fiscal harmonization, social harmonization, so that maybe the peoples of Europe.
You think Germany is going to harmonize
at least we will
policy
ask,
on the French?
Okay, let me ask Michael Sala about this. It's often been said there are two national fronts. There's the one that's the protectionist one that's very present in the north of the country, in the Rust Belt areas, and there's the one that's from the old, very far right portion of the party that's more present in the southeast of the country. It seems as though the last couple of days, Marine Le Pen has harked back to making almost all of her speeches about this watch out, there's a menace from Islamists who are going to take over our country.
Let me get back to what you showed, which was Emmanuel Macron waving a European, not a European flag, the flag of the European Union as it is now. What is European Union standing for as we speak? It's standing for Mrs. Merkel bringing 1.5 million immigrants into her country, Germany.
900,000.
1.5 million, sorry about that. And those, she lost trace of 500,000 of them. And those could come to France if they wanted to, because we have no borders. And it so happens that among, and I'm really a little bit shocked by the way Raquel considers the victims of terrorist attacks, because some of the migrants took AK-47 and shot people in the Bataclan. They were, you know...
There were no migrants at the Bataclan.
Yes,
they were all French nationals.
They were. No, they were people in the Bataclan, Stade de France, who attacked France that were infiltrated among migrants. So this is what European Union... Can I finish my sentences, Raquel, please? Let me finish, please. Because if you interrupt me, I will not let you speak. I can also interrupt people. François, can I finish my sentence?
You have to pay some respect
so
to what happened.
the first thing, yeah, it's really shocking the way you treat terror as, okay, we're going to light a candle and terrorists are going to be scared because we light candles. Well, no, Raquel, it doesn't happen that way. If you want terror to disappear, you have to give yourself the means to fight.
Killers were born and raised here.
The first thing, Raquel, let me tell you, the first protection against terror is to have borders. And the second thing that Marine Le Pen says, the first thing that borders that Mr. Fillon and Mr. Mélenchon and Mr. Macron voted against every time they had a say on this. So first thing, we need to have borders. And the second thing is we need to make sure, you remember the attack in Nice where a madman, a terrorist, a lunatic drove a truck into a crowd of kids and mothers and families. You know, this guy, he was a Tunisian and he had been convicted by the French justice and he was not serving his sentence, and he maimed and killed over 100 people. With Marine Le Pen in power, he would have been sent back to his country. That's what we're saying. We don't hate anybody.
And
we're saying that a terrorist is sent back home. That's the way we fight.
Let me ask you.
You can't just light candles against terror.
We're thinking about the solution. We're talking about open or closed borders here. First of all,
you see,
waving that EU flag
our
that
project
Emmanuel
is
Macron
completely
did,
different.
Is that a vote getter? Waving that flag, is that going to get more votes for Emmanuel Macron?
Well, we'll see on Sunday, but because we have a project that is much more optimistic. We want to get all the country back together, and we're the only ones who can do it. Because I'm sorry, Mrs. Garrido is charming, so she shows a very lovely face of her party. Her party scares people as much as the Front National. That's the reality.
No,
I'm sorry. As I said, I've been on the street.
What scares people is the current
let me speak. You've spoken.
You're defending the current constitution.
But no, I'm sorry. The reality is there are some people who are ready to move out of the country just because the two of your parties
some people are
up
ready
to 19%.
To come back when Mélenchon will be elected.
And people are very. Your project is an extreme left project.
And what is your project?
It's not what you appear to be.
Losing your self-control, attacking us.
Absolutely not.
No, I'm just asking.
Your candidate.
Your project on terrorism.
Your candidate. Let me finish.
Good question. That's a good question. I'd love to have the answer to that question also.
Okay,
thanks.
so we're for working against terrorism within Europe and building stronger borders outside on the outside of Europe. Our project is very pro-European. We do not, we're proud of it.
So you want the Greeks who are bankrupt to protect us against terror,
or
the Italians who are
help them to protect
totally overwhelmed.
But our project is not to breed more fear and more hate in France.
Unless it's fear of us.
No, because
you're breeding fear here.
It's true that the communists have made a lot of victims in the
You breed fear by yourself.
Oh no, you just said so yourself that I was very reassuring. Well, we had to. Thank you so much for that.
No.
And it's true that Jean-Luc Mélenchon is reassuring.
So our project is pro-European. We do want to have everybody have a new chance. We want to get people back together, and we're the only ones who are going to be able to do it. Because
but against terrorism, what are you doing against terrorism?
Hang on, everybody.
I myself come from the right.
One at a time. Otherwise, the viewers can't hear what's going on.
It's
so one at a time.
Because, of course, I'm attacked on all sides, being, of course...
Sure, you have no answer on the subject.
Because it's hard to be attacked by three parties at once. You never attack each other otherwise.
I haven't attacked the Front National, maybe. I haven't attacked what Sarkozy did.
But in such a charming way,
I'm going to answer. No, our party is built with people who come from the left and from the right, and mainly who have never been in politics.
And who have ruined France in the last 10 years.
No, not at all. The majority of the people who are with us are people who've never been in politics before, who are professional people who want to do something for their people.
Can you say that again?
Professional people who want to do...
Who have never been in politics? Like Emmanuel Macron, he's been in charge for the last 5 years. He was Secretary General to François Hollande.
Some people who come from the left.
Joke.
Some people come from the. I come from the right.
Joke.
No, I'm sorry. Some people come from the left. Some people come from the right.
And they've all been in charge.
Because you have
the majority.
That's the truth of the matter. Is
well, if I can't say anything,
behind
if I can't say anything because I'm interrupted all the time,
and a good marketing operation. But what you're standing for and what you've clearly stated now.
No, I haven't. I haven't been able to speak.
And the current European Union.
You're going to have to do something.
So that said, why do you want to govern if it's to remain in the same European Union and the same constitution?
Raquel, Anne Le Breton, finish your point.
So we have a project that's much more reunifying, and also because the other projects will set everybody else against them. In the end, we're the only possible project. Your project, I'm sorry, your candidate with all his affairs, and he's completely disrupted the whole campaign.
He has a majority behind him. He has a unity, an ideological unity.
We have a very strong ideological
ask some
unity.
questions? What does Emmanuel Macron thinks about the 35 hours? What does he think about retirement revenues? Yeah, please, because we didn't understand, and I'm not the only one.
Well, you should read our program.
He is the candidate who said platform is not important. Just vote for me.
You should read our program. No, your candidate is saying that
it's a technocratic program, like he is. It's a technocratic program, taking a bit from the left, a bit from the right, and it's a marketing product.
It was a program that was done with the people who started En Marche and who built it together. So it's not a technocratic project, unlike yours, and you have a project that you will not be able to apply. Because, you see, yesterday your candidate went to a school, he was supposed to go to a school, he wasn't even able to go to that school because the students were all over him, and he had to try to go to somewhere else.
He has a government and he has a parliament.
How can we have a president who cannot even go out and visit anything without having flowers?
Camille Bedin, because of his parliamentary payroll scandal, is François Fillon damaged goods? People outside the country don't understand that he's still running for the job of president at this point.
Yeah, but in our country, we wait for justice to make its decision, and judiciary decision. I'm sorry. So we wait for that, and he is innocent to that point, and I think that he has the only credibility, experience, platform, majority, and possibility
and lack of ethics,
ability to govern with a real unified government. So he is the only one between Le Pen, Macron, and Mélenchon to have this ideological coherence.
Okay, that brings us because we're short on time. Camille Bedin, I know that you're a candidate for the legislative elections. And of course, that is the big question, because this election will be different in more ways than one. After the presidential poll, there's going to be legislative elections in June, and it appears as though no one party is going to have a majority at that point in time. What will the role be of the next president?
I think we don't know what will happen after Sunday. I think if it's François Fillon who is president, we will be the only one to be able to have this majority. So, and we don't have any polls about that. So I think we have this coherence, and I come back to what I said at the beginning. I think when it will come to go and vote on Sunday, people won't think about the mediatical affairs and all things. They will think about being responsible for the future of the country, and he is the only one to have the ability to carry these reforms for the country.
Raquel Garrido, most countries in Europe have coalition governments a lot of times, sometimes grand coalitions like we see in Germany. It appears as though that's what could happen here in France, no matter who wins the next, whoever wins this election.
I doubt it, because our system is one where the executive power overwhelmingly prevails over legislative power. So it's not about making legislative coalitions, because we've seen in history that the parliamentary actually lack of essential powers, and that's why we have to reform the constitution.
But the parliament will have a lot more teeth this time around, possibly, because no candidate seems able at this point to be able to garner an outright majority in that parliament.
I think the real problem. It's true. It's not unfair to say that you might have instability in the parliament, but the main instability, if Jean-Luc Mélenchon is not elected, and if we don't start the process of building a new constitution, is that this president elected, if it's another than Jean-Luc Mélenchon, will lack of legitimacy, because the people are no longer consenting to the system itself. And so if you have a Macron, for instance,
the system of which Jean-Luc Mélenchon has been a part for the last 25 years.
He was 40
years.
The millionaire communist.
No, he's never been a communist, and he's not a millionaire. But
well, you know, North Korea and France are the two countries in the world where you can run for president under the communist label.
Yeah,
it's horrendous.
And your candidate, you have cops running after her to go answer to the justice. And your candidate has scandals too regarding the way she's employing people.
I'm not talking about scandals. I'm talking about the communist label.
And Marine Le Pen also has the problem of
the ethics, because you're in the same situation as
This is why the French will elect Marine Le Pen, because we've never been in power. All of you guys support candidates who have been in power.
And her own parliamentary payroll scandal won't matter?
Parliamentary payroll scandal?
Her parliamentary payroll scandal.
There is no parliament. Let me ask you one thing.
She employed a bodyguard as a parliamentary staff member.
Can I ask you one thing, François? When you're elected for parliament as an MP, what's your job? Is it political, your mandate? Is it political or not political? It's political, of course, it is. You get granted a budget to hire an aide. That aide's job, is it political or non-political? Of course it's political. So, you know, there's not even an issue, and we'll be very, all this will be made straight in a very little time. But what I wanted to say about the parliament, the majority in parliament, you know,
Marine Le Pen won't have a majority in parliament.
Says who? Because, you know, the French are a very political people. The French are political people. And whenever they elect a president, they will grant him or her, and that's going to be her, a majority. That's why we're going to have a majority.
I agree for once with you, and we will have the majority. But we will have something that all the others won't have, is we will be able to vote laws with the help of the other parliamentaries, because we will be in a position where people will want to vote specific laws with us. So we will have the larger majority, and we will have it much easier than you know it's true.
I think it's very naive.
You will be out because you've been in charge for 5 years and you've ruined this country.
We already have.
I think you're indulging yourself in thinking that the Fifth Republic can go on this way, and you're the last spasm of this oligarchy that runs this country.
I hope this spasm takes this time.
You were before last.
But
the proof will be in the pudding, Raquel. The proof will be
they will vote for Mélenchon.
The proof will be in the pudding Sunday night at 8 p.m. Paris time. We'll, of course, be covering it here. I want to thank our panel, Michael Salah, Anne Le Breton, Camille Bedin, Raquel Garrido. Stay with us, though. It's time for Media Watch. And we say hello to Diptyque Laurent.
Hi, François.
We had a little competition earlier about, trying to gauge who's the most popular on different social media and stuff. It seems as though with the polls being very inaccurate at times in recent elections elsewhere, people are looking for other ways to find out if their candidate is doing well.
That's right. They have, all the candidates have been turning to social media this week, in particular Snapchat. Every day this week, Snapchat has allowed one candidate to have a Q&A with Snapchat users who are, of course, very generally quite young. Today was Emmanuel Macron's turn, and he actually started off his day by indulging in the bottle flip challenge, which is what he posted on his Twitter account. Let's see if it turns out. Basically, you got to flip a bottle and be able to pick it up as without it dropping. He said that he succeeded on the second go. It all might seem a little innocuous, but these kind of things are the kind of activities that do engage the candidates with the young voters who they're trying to at least coax to the voting booths, let alone vote itself. Marine Le Pen, she was on Snapchat yesterday, and she was...
Did she do the bottle challenge?
She didn't do the bottle challenge, but she was asked about her meeting with Vladimir Putin, and she actually showed Snapchat users a gift that she got, which was a painting of Donald Trump, Putin, and herself in a painting called A Vision of the New World. So she was definitely using it for her political advantage. Now, what's interesting is that each of the candidates have also been playing around with Snapchat filters. So you see Fillon, Benoît Hamon, Le Pen, and Macron all sort of trying to indulge in Snapchat's basic premise, which are these filters. Now, it must be noted, Jean-Luc Mélenchon was invited, but he has not taken part as yet. He may change his mind, but for the moment, he said he won't take part. Macron, in his Snapchat interview, was asked a question by a young student. Actually, he was asked some dating advice. A young student asked him...
Dating advice?
Yeah, a young student told him that he has a crush on his criminal law professor, and he asked Macron what he should do about it.
Because Macron's wife is 20 years his senior.
That's right. Now, in fact, each of the candidates have faced these kind of cutesy questions. It's not just Macron. Fillon faced a similar question earlier in the week about a girl who wanted to be his parliamentary assistant. Now, Macron, he told the user, go for it, because there's no taboos about it. But he said if it doesn't work, then you should probably ask yourself why. So, he responded quite well. Now, each of the candidates have also, of course, been sending their promotional flyers out. And a lot of users on social media, François, have taken to deforming them, if you like, adding filters, these kind of things, and also a lot of rather critical. Each of the candidates have had their turn being criticized.
I noticed that. They're pretty good at putting them up the next day, the posters, after they've been defaced.
That's right, and it seems to be a tradition. This was Macron, and there's also François Fillon and Benoît Hamon, who actually, I think, got the best rap out of it, because That little...
It just doesn't seem presidential, though.
It doesn't, but it says you already make my heart beat, so that's quite cute. So there you go, people having fun on social media.
Just briefly, the foreign press, what are they saying?
Well, there's a lot of interest, of course, in the elections. I want to focus on what the French press are calling the cold sweats of French pollsters, because indeed this is the election that is one of the closest, if not the closest, in French political history. And pollsters are having a really hard time because, as you mentioned, normally the first two winners will be called at 8 p.m. on Sunday, but pollsters are now facing a predicament. Do they call it tentatively at 8 p.m. or do they delay their call because they just don't know how close it's going to go? And this is the first time they're experiencing that, and many are talking about what...
1995.
1995 as well. So it's been a long time anyway since we've had an election this close, and many are, of course, talking about the election that could smash the two-party system in France.
All right, many thanks for that, Diptyque Laurent. I want to thank our panel once again. Thank you for joining us here. And again, there's more coverage of the build-up to Sunday's first round of the French presidential election on our website, france24.com.